Welcome to the AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown. We'll guide you through the biggest news of the day. Our focus, advocating our rights, advocating health, and advocating Earth. Here's our pick for number 4.
I have never dealt with a group of people as treacherous as the North Vietnamese leadership.
Henry Kissinger once said, "Power is the ultimate aphrodisiac." And he would have known. After escaping Nazi Germany in his childhood, Kissinger would become one of the most powerful figures in politics during the Richard Nixon administration.
Kissinger provided a genius for playing multi-level diplomatic chess, which allowed the U.S. government and the Nixon administration to implement Nixon's policies, the most famous of which, of course, was the opening to China.
Kissinger was criticized by some for his decision to increase U.S. military action during the Vietnam War.
I would then recommend that you start farming within Jesus hours and within 48 hours.
Kissinger received the 1973 Nobel Peace Prize for his work in helping arrange the end of the U.S. military's involvement in the Vietnam War.
Henry Kissinger was a towering figure in U.S. foreign relations, both admired and hated.
Kissinger was 100 years old. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
TheAdvocateChannel.com looks at the world through the lens of equality and inclusion. Subscribe, like, and share now. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
In an impassioned speech Wednesday, Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer pushing to stop Jewish hate.
The rise of anti-Semitism is a crisis, a 5-alarm fire that must be extinguished.
For more than 40 minutes, the New York senator, who is Jewish, called for change.
I implore every person, every community, every institution to stand with Jewish Americans, not to ignore it.
Other leaders showing support for Schumer's call to action.
I share his disgust at the alarming rise of anti-Semitism.
In the month after Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, the Anti-Defamation League says anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. are up 316% compared to that period last year. It's particularly concerning on college campuses, where the ADL says 73% of Jewish college students have experienced or seen anti-Semitism since the beginning of the school year. On Tuesday, a group of Jewish students, alumni, and faculty filed a lawsuit against the University of California at Berkeley, claiming the school failed to protect Jewish people from discrimination on campus.
When you don't enforce policy in every situation, only certain situations, that to me is discrimination.
UC Berkeley saying the university has long been committed to confronting anti-Semitism. The Department of Education is investigating other college campuses across the country over alleged incidents of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, one of the many reasons lawmakers are calling to end hate.
The time for solidarity must be now.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Like the Advocate Channel on Facebook for the best way to get updates on stories that advocate for equality, justice, our rights, and more. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
Israeli forces with bulldozers and jeeps entered the camp under the cover of darkness. This has become a routine. And this is the usual aftermath. Wreckage and rubble, asphalt roads plowed down to the dirt. Once the damage is repaired, there's another raid, and it's the same thing all over again. For almost 2 years, a low-intensity war has been raging in the occupied West Bank. Residents here in Jenin's refugee camp say that there have been more than 30 Israeli military incursions since August of this year. The camp is home to militants who Israel has accused of involvement in attacks on Israelis. But here, those whom Israel calls terrorists are seen as fighters against a decades-long military occupation. Wadiam Kaskas is not a fighter. He works for the local government.
This is the kids' room.
But last week, Israeli soldiers took over his home during yet another raid. As he shows me around, the remains of what was a family's life crunch under our shoes. Brutal is how Wadia sums up the soldiers' behavior. Scars of battles past pockmark the camp's walls. Debris on almost every corner. Sammy shows me spent cartridges on the floor of her house, saying Israeli troops used this room to fire down into the street. They took my husband, bound his hands, and pushed him outside in the cold, she says. They kept him there from 6 in the evening until 5 in the morning. Eventually, the soldiers let him go, but took away her recently married son after ransacking his bedroom, searching for weapons. 18-year-old Mahmoud Abulheji was shot last Thursday evening, shot through his bedroom window. His mother, Khitam, holding a blood-stained towel, recounts how Israeli soldiers wouldn't allow medics to take him to hospital. I was sure we were going to the hospital, she says. We went downstairs. A second officer was there and made the medics put the stretcher down. Mahmoud bled to death in front of his home. Tuesday night, Israeli forces raided the camp again, sparking gun battles with militants. And in the process, Israeli troops killed at least 4 people, including this 8-year-old boy. And then they left.
Follow the Advocate channel on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on stories that matter every day. Here's our #1 story of the day. Take a look.
If there was ever any doubt, the future is now. A year of disasters spanning the globe, made so much worse by the climate crisis.
The air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable. Leaders must lead.
These critical climate meetings, led by a major fossil fuel producer, were controversial before they even began. Leaks released this week by the Center for Climate Reporting, showing what appear to be briefing papers for COP President Sultan Al-Jaber, who is head of the state oil company, allegedly pitching fossil fuel deals for the UAE on the side. The COP president calls the allegations false and incorrect.
Sometimes I am told you need to engage with governments and with oil and gas companies to put pressure. And sometimes I'm told you can't do that. So we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't.
The UAE is saying that they are here because all countries, including oil producers, need to come up with solutions to the climate crisis.
Yes, they need to be part of the negotiations, but what you can't have is somebody who is putting fossil fuel companies' interests ahead of the negotiations and the outcome that we need.
The outcome that the UN and many others hope for, a concrete plan for a fossil fuel phase-out. A recent UN report shows that the globe is wildly off track to meet emissions targets.
It's critical for countries to come together and agree to a systematic reduction in a time-bound reduction. I mean, this is a true moment for leadership. It's not about technology or technical thing. It's commitment leadership that this is something we need to do. We need to come together. Rich countries have to help poorer countries.
The harsh reality, countries that have the least responsibility for climate change will feel the most catastrophic impact.
At this COP, they need to have guarantees that there will be a fund with sufficient money in it to deal with the loss and damages, so the impacts they can no longer avoid and they just have to cope with.
If that doesn't happen, what's the consequence of that?
The consequences is lost lives, livelihoods, futures.
And the consequence for all of us, if bold steps are not taken now, are too terrible to contemplate.
Thanks for watching the Advocate Channel's top stories. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow, like, and share, or check out advocatechannel.com for even more stories that advocate for you.